it can be incredibly frustrating to look into your tank of red cherry shrimp only to see they still aren't breeding. In this video, I'll share with you 6 reasons your red cherry shrimp may not be breeding. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Richard and I'm the owner of the fishkeepinganswers.com website. So, straight in at reason number 1 is because your red cherry shrimp simply aren't old enough to breed. Red cherry shrimp do not typically start breeding until they are 3 to 5 months old. If your shrimp are younger than that, there's a good chance they simply aren't old enough to start producing babies yet. You also need to remember that once a red cherry shrimp is old enough to produce babies, the female holds the developing eggs for around 30 days before she releases them as live, free-swimming baby shrimp. Even once they're released, newborn shrimp are microscopic, they're tiny, they can be incredibly hard to spot, and you may well find, for the first 2 to 3 weeks, the babies hide in the aquarium anyway. When we take all this into account, we realise it could be 6 to 8 months from getting our shrimp to seeing the first babies swimming in the tank. If you've had your shrimp for less than 6 to 8 months, just give them a bit more time. The chances are, if they're not already, they will soon start breeding. Now the second reason on my list that your shrimp aren't producing any babies is because they're all female. One of the quirks of red cherry shrimp is that the females have most of the colour. The bright red shrimp typically are female and the smaller, less colourful shrimp typically are male. I have seen before someone go into a fish store and purchase the 10 of the brightest reddest shrimp they have in the tank. They take them home proud as can be, not realising they've bought a colony of females. Naturally, for our shrimp to reproduce we have to have males and females, which means we need some of the bright coloured large females and some of the less colourful smaller males. If you're buying your shrimp young, it may be impossible to sex them anyway, but if they are slightly older, slightly larger, and they are showing colour, make sure you get a mix of both. Colour isn't the only way we can sex our shrimp, but it is a very good indicator. In the description below, I'll link to another video I recorded recently telling you how to sex red cherry shrimp. Next up is because the water temperature is too low. Red cherry shrimp are incredibly hardy and they can live in a wide range of temperatures. But the optimum temperature for them to breed is between 72 and 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius. When they're kept within this optimum temperature range, they do breed more prolifically. Now, whilst I don't heat any of the breeding tanks in my fish room, they do typically stay between 70 and 76 degrees Fahrenheit, which is an ideal temperature range for breeding. Now, reason number 4 is that your shrimp are too old to breed. Sadly, there are some less than scrupulous breeders who will happily sell their old stock on to unsuspecting buyers who do not realise red cherry shrimp are less likely to breed the older they get. Whilst red cherry shrimp can live for up to 2 years, there is no doubt that their rate of reproduction decreases in the second year. Personally, once my females reach around 18 months old, I take them from my breeding tanks and put them in one of my community tanks in the fish room, where they happily live out their days. At number 5, it's because you have predators in the tank. Newborn red cherry shrimp are tiny, and to a newborn shrimp, a neon tetra is a predator. Anything in the aquarium that can fit a baby shrimp in its mouth will do so. Female red cherry shrimp produce 30 to 50 babies each month, and they have evolved to have so many babies because they know the chances of an individual baby surviving to adulthood is slim. If you keep your shrimp with fish, there is a good chance that some, if not most of the babies, are being eaten by the fish in the tank. My best advice here would be to add as much cover to the aquarium as possible. I find piles of rocks or live aquarium plants are the best way to provide hiding places. The more places you have for your baby shrimp to go, the greater their chances of survival. When it comes to being eaten or not being eaten, out of sight is out of mind. My final reason on today's list is because the baby shrimp are actually being sucked into the filter. Both canister filters and hang-on back filters have intakes designed to draw water from the aquarium up into the filter. They will typically have a plastic strainer over that intake which prevents fish getting sucked in, but those strainers do nothing to prevent baby shrimp from being drawn into the filter. Unfortunately, once a shrimp is drawn up into the filter, the chances of survival are tiny. The easiest way to prevent this from happening is by placing an intake sponge over the intake to the filter. The sponge does not restrict the water from being drawn into the filter, but does seriously reduce the chances of baby shrimp being sucked in. In fact, the sponge over the intake will become covered in microscopic particles that would normally be sucked into the filter, and these particles make an ideal food for shrimp. It is not uncommon to see an intake sponge covered in shrimp who are actually feeding on those microscopic particles. Now, as mentioned previously in this video, one of the most important factors is having both male and female shrimp in your tank. And if you're not sure how to sex them, watch this video linked on screen. Thanks for watching.